Hello and welcome to Ukraine Today. I'm Volodymyr Sulhub, and right now I'm joined by the Crimean Tatar activist Mr. Arsen Zhumadilov by video link from Odesa to talk about the economic blockade of Crimea. Arsen, welcome to Ukraine Today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Arsen, on September the 20th, the Crimean Tatars who live on the Ukrainian mainland started the economic blockade of Crimea. Can you tell me why did the Crimean Tatars decided to do that?
Well, the thing is that this should have been done 1.5 years ago, right after the annexation. Because what we are evidencing at the moment is that Crimea is annexed. The human rights of our citizens there are flagrantly violated, and we are doing nothing about it. We're all focused on other issues. We're focused on Donbass, as if there is no Crimean problem at all. So we have been waiting for way too long for the Ukrainian state to take an action. And since we don't see any effective action being made upon Crimea, the initiative was taken by the civic society organizations being led by the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people, because we think that trade on blood is just not acceptable.
Yes, I understand, but how does the economic blockade help to protect or secure the rights of Crimean Tatars in Crimea?
Well, the thing is that we understand that Crimea is heavily dependent on supply chains that come from Ukraine, on foodstuff and other goods. And if we stop the trade, if we break these supply chains, this will raise the cost upon Russia on holding Crimea in its under the occupation. So for the Russian regime, it will be increasingly difficult to bear the cost. So we should make them realize that Crimea without Ukraine is not sustainable. That for them it is a better idea just to say, let us sit and talk and let us see what we can do about this situation, about how we can go back 2 years ago when Crimea was in Ukraine. This is what the best case scenario as we see it. The average case, or the worst case scenario, or the minimum result that we are expecting from this is that Russia will probably, or should be ready now to really sit and talk about the prisoners, the political prisoners that are being kept in Crimea, in Russia, including Nadia Savchenko, including Oleg Sentsov, Alexander Kolchenko, including all the Crimean Tatars that are being kept in custody or in jails, including the deputy head of Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people, Artem Zhumadilov, and other activists. So they will probably they will understand that for them it is a better idea to sit and talk to us rather than to make a strong face as if Ukraine just not exists.
Yeah, it looks like forcing Russia to start dialogue. Arsen, the blockade has been lasting for more than 10 days now. What are the effects so far?
Well, the consequences and the repercussions of this blockade will be felt in 1 or 2 weeks' time. Why? Because now all the stocks there in Crimean shopping malls are full, because they were preparing themselves for the blockade, because it was announced a few weeks prior to actually the action. So now they have not exhausted their stocks yet. So when they will run out of the foodstuff that was brought from Ukraine, then we will see results on the table. Now, at this point of time, what we see there in Crimea and what we hear from our competitors is that prices, of course, went up, is that in some places there are minor shortages of foodstuff, but still this is not still not the result that we're expecting, and we are expecting it in a few days' time, actually.
Arsen, one of the Crimean Tatars' leader, Mr. Rafat Chubarov, who was banned from coming to Crimea after it was illegally annexed by Russia, said that in October, Ukraine might cut off the electricity supplies to the peninsula. Tell us, how realistic is that?
Well, technically, it is a bit problematic. Why? Because unlike trucks and supply chains that are made by car transport, which you can physically block in order not to let them go into Crimea. Electricity grids, it is something that being managed in a different way, of course. I mean, you cannot imagine somebody, going and cutting the lines and in this way, blockading, Crimea from electricity. So what I think is that this announcement, it was an invitation to the Ukrainian state now to take this issue seriously and to sit and talk really substantially about how we are blockading Crimea and what goals do we pursue and who actually does it. I mean, who commits it? Because we of course understand that in long-term run, this blockade is not sustainable if it is done by civic society organizations only. At some point of time, the Ukrainian state has to take an action, it has to take the responsibility upon its shoulders, saying that, okay, now it's our turn, and they have to put their, border and customs officers in order for them to control the border, in order for them not to let the foodstuff to flow in to Crimea.
Arsen, do you think that with this economic blockade of Crimea, Ukraine is finally learning the art of hybrid war from Russia? Because on one hand, it is not the government who stopped the food deliveries into Crimea, but on the other hand, the government is not preventing the Crimean Tatars from doing this.
Well, they're not preventing. They're not preventing. Yes, what they're doing is that they are just at this point of time they're watching and they want to see what the results the blockade will bear. I mean, they want to see whether, for example, Putin will be less reluctant to sit and talk about Crimea. So yes, it is an element of the hybrid war that we're all in now these days. It is to some point unfortunate that the initiative was put forward by civil society organizations rather than by the state. But I think that we are talking about a dialogue. We are talking about a situation where the civil society organizations and the state of Ukraine are on the same page. It is just that the state is, since it is big, since it is to some extent it is like resistant to take swift actions. The initiative was there made by civil society organizations, but in general we are on the same page.
So, Arsen, going back to my previous question, do you think that Ukrainian government will step in, and do you think the Ukrainian government will cut off the electricity?
Well, we've heard the Minister of Energy saying that they will raise the price on electricity for Crimea, and it was announced just a few days after Mr. Chubarov said that we will cut off the electricity supply to Crimea. So we are seeing that the state is reacting, and I hope that at some point of time the Majlis of the Crimean Tatar people and the government of Ukraine will sit and actually discuss the blockade in general and in details. Because at this point of time we are not seeing this happening. If this does not happen, I cannot imagine how this technically can be implemented by civic society organizations if they really want to cut off the electricity supply.
And so it looks like a lot of uncertainties. Arsen, many thanks for finding the time to talk to us. This was Volodymyr Suluhub for Ukraine Today, together with Mr. Arsen Zhumadilov, the Crimean Tatar activist, talking about the economic blockade of Crimea. Thank you for watching us.